The Pies are going to win what's a classic, as good as it gets.
Gave the tags, rides the bump, dropped it, goes back and gets it, has a stab at goal, and drills a ripper.
Myers tried to step through, he did more than try, he kept on going, it deserved the finish, just like that.
Hello, I'm Damien Barrett and welcome to Access All Areas. Plenty to talk about from this long Anzac weekend, but there's one team which has skipped clear from the rest, with the Cats' demolition of the reigning Premier putting them a game on top of the ladder. Matthew Lloyd and Jimmy Bartell, it was an impressive game against the Eagles.
Yeah, it certainly was. The festival of footy's finally over. We finally got through those last two rounds, but the Cats absolutely fantastic and a very tough side again to beat down at home.
They've been outstanding, Damo. When you take a look at their first 6 weeks, Collingwood, Melbourne, Adelaide, GWS, Hawthorn and West Coast. So on paper, I'm not sure there's been a tougher first 6 rounds, but they've got through it and sit a game clear on top.
Why is it we now get to the end of round 6 and we all, I think, as an industry, think they are the premiership favourites as we speak?
Yeah, I think it was underestimated how actually experienced and hard-nosed a side they are. And apart from Clark, who's a first-year player and has fit in really well as a point of difference in their back six, you look at Constable, Myers, who have played this year, and even Atkins. They've had good apprenticeships in the VFL, and we'll see a couple of these guys in the highlights. So the two first ones I mentioned, they played a whole year in the VFL before they released them into AFL level. We often see draft picks, let's quickly show them off, but they played a whole year in the VFL, and Atkins spent 5 years in the Geelong VFL system. But, Lloydie, it's this defensive, I guess, nature where they've always seemed to have the extra number in the ball, which is overwhelming sides.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Tom Stewart, 14 marks, Harry Taylor, 10. So they've always had that, in my opinion, Damo, but full credit to Chris Scott and his coaching staff, because now they've got their front end right, which they didn't have that last year. I know everyone's highlighted.
And is that Radigalia just being able to play again? Is
him, obviously, and then Atkins, Myers, obviously Gary Rowan, and also there's one other player that I've missed there. But just the pressure that they're putting on is allowing for Stewart and then those guys to be even more dangerous.
Only one team's got them this year, GWS. Collingwood had moments against them, as too did Hawthorn even on Easter Monday, but only one team's got them. How did they do it, GWS, back at the category in round 4?
Well, that man, Lloydie mentioned Tom Stewart, who actually sets up the Cats' defence really well. He's often the anchor in defence, but his speed and ability to break the line. So GWS put Buntine onto him, tagged him. Probably the first time in his career Tom Stewart's been tagged as defender. He was still very good, but they tried to limit his effectiveness in that back half.
So he's central to everything that goes down?
I think so, in their back six. The other players are super. Mark Blitzars has been an All-Australian, and we mentioned other names, but I think he's the key link in their back six.
And the Eagles do move the ball slowly and have a slow build-up. I think you've got to take them on. The Giants took them on. They play Essendon on Sunday, Geelong, so it's going to be a challenge to see how they handle the speed of the Bombers.
The losers yesterday, the Eagles, they stretched 3 consecutive wins together, but they've now lost 3 games by big margins. Back in round 1, Brisbane got them by 7 or so goals. Port last week, and then yesterday Geelong, nearly a 10-goal win. Are there concerns for the reigning Premier?
I don't have concerns, because I can almost find an excuse. I know you don't want excuses in AFL footy, but Brisbane, round 1, up there after the Premiership, you could say that was a little bit of a late start hangover year. Port Adelaide played really well against West Coast the last couple of years. We've seen some great finishes, and in the wet. And down at Geelong at 4:40 on a Sunday afternoon, you're going to be the first or the last side to be belted down there by the Cats, Lloydie.
I thought their bottom end really struggled too yesterday. Okay. Oscar Allen had no impact. Petrocelli just 5 disposals. Jared Brander struggled. So suddenly you lose a few players. Your kids need to come up. That's what Geelong's have done that. But they're experienced kids. I think the Eagles have really struggled.
Is it a hangover?
I don't think so.
Not yet, but they're not far off. Falling back into the pack.
Gold Coast, St Kilda and Melbourne are their next 3 games. I still think they'll get to 6 and 3, and we won't be talking about the hangover. You were in Tassie yesterday, Jimmy, and you saw a great game. Carlton again lost a game it probably should have won. Zach Vischer hit the post late in the piece, but a lot went on, didn't it, late?
Yeah, I feel like Carlton's year this year might be a lot like Brisbane's year last year. They'll play some terrific footy, but not quite good enough to get a win. I think we all walked away from Brisbane's year and thought, geez, they're really good, but they only had 5 wins. But Levi's header, how good is this for ruck work? Just the back header here to Zach Vischer. I was at the ground. This ball looked good from where I was sitting, but it hit the post. But look, they're going to take some tough lessons, and we've already seen that with the loss against Gold Coast and this one about game style and still playing the full game out.
I wasn't there, but I wasn't as critical as I have been of Carlton losing a game it possibly and probably should have won in the past. I thought they were good. They got 6 goals clear. They had some injured players on the bench, Newman and Simpson particularly, and also Cruiser was just run himself into the ground. I wasn't too upset with how they lost it.
Their first half was as good as they've played all year, and I think that what they did well after the Gold Coast loss, they learnt from it and smashed the Western Bulldogs. They play North Melbourne next week.
Yep.
That's a game they need to win.
Yeah. The Hawks rolled the dice, didn't they? And they got the right opponent to be able to do it. They were so far down, they just had to take risks and spread, and they did, and it looked as simple as teamwork and training sessions sometimes.
Yeah, they almost played Carlton style when Carlton played against them in the first half. They took a lot more forward handball in the second half. O'Meara was absolutely dominant, but in the second half, Shields and Walpole got involved, and the key players, when Gunston and Bruce and Wingard get their hands on the ball, they're a very dangerous side. So, look, the Hawks, I thought they were really impressive Easter Monday, and their second half was just really grit and, gutting out a pretty gutsy win, Lloydie.
And Cruiser was just brilliant in the first half. He obviously ran out of gas and was on the bench late in the game, and as you said, Wingard and Bruce, you give them an opportunity, which, because through the midfield dominance, you see Wingard here getting involved. It's non-existent in the first half, and suddenly mistakes start to happen. They got their tails up, and they just couldn't stop the momentum, which young sides struggle to do.
Yep. We'll move on to the Crows, who have squared their ledger at 3-3. 2 wins in a row, the latest coming against St Kilda. 3 of their next 4 are now at Adelaide Oval. I'm not ruling them out, as much as I was, I think, wrong in saying they're premiership hopes at the start of the year, but I'm not ruling them out for being top 4.
No, they've got some solid games, but as you mentioned, a couple of them are at the Adelaide Oval. They play the Eagles at the Adelaide Oval. The Eagles play that well. They've got the D's up at Northern Territory, but you'd think they'd be pretty close in all those games?
Top 4, Damo. I thought you were going to say top 8, but I think they're a long, long way off a top 4 team.
Yeah, I think they've just done enough in the last 2 weeks. I know it's against opposition that they should win, but I still will think they're going to be shaping the season in some form. They're doing it also, too, without Josh Jenkins in attack. I think he has to come back in at some stage.
I agree on that. And this is a confidence player. He's a barometer for them, Tex, and he jumped at that ball, took the grab, got his confidence up, and suddenly their midfield and their half-backs, which we touched on last week, are playing much better, which is giving the forwards more of an opportunity.
Yeah, the noticeable thing about Tex this year, he looks to be moving a lot freer and being able to get around the ground, but since Jenkins has gone out, he started probably a little bit deeper, where he's normally been up across the half-forward line being a release kick, but with Jenkins out, he can come back close to the goal where he's been really dangerous.
We've seen Elliot Himmelberg in a couple of these passages of play. This is Walker kicking one of his 4 goals on his non-preferred left foot, drills it. But would it be Himmelberg out for Jenkins?
That'd be the swap. I think if Himmelberg gets a little bit tired, and Jenkins surely will come back in the side at some stage.
Midfield is elite when it's on song. We saw what they did 2 years ago to reach a grand final. Gibbs is not part of it in 2 of the past 3 weeks, but they're getting the job done.
Well, the thing I noticed out of this, even though they fed the ball back, or lateral from the contest, Lloyd, they actually took the game forward, and that's what you were talking about. Take the game forward after you go lateral. You bring the half-backs and the runners involved. When we see all these clearances, they just look a lot more dangerous side when they're bringing Smith and Laird into the game.
40 clearances to 28. Brad Crouch had 11 of them. He didn't play a game last year, so just a massive bonus. But I still think that they'll be exposed by other teams' midfields throughout the year. I just think, teams like the Bombers...
For leg pace?
For leg speed, So I think they really matched up well against the Suns last week and St Kilda this week. They play Fremantle in Adelaide, but I think Fremantle have the pace that can hurt the Adelaide Crows, so time will tell on their midfield.
With Alex Rance's unavailability for the season with his knee injury, there's an all-Australian spot up for grabs. He's had 5 of the past 5 years at fullback, but it's an interesting array of names here who are now in contention for the 2 key spots. And just before we delve into this conversation, we're leaving deliberately off this list Grimes, Stewart and Hearn because they're slightly smaller than those 8 names on screen, but there's some names there you wouldn't have had in this conversation at the start of the year. Yeah,
we love to go early, don't we, the All-Australian squad. So what do we have to pick, 2 or 3 names?
Go for 2, Jim.
I'm going to go for 3. I'm going to ignore you there. I'm going to go Moore, McGovern and Pearce are my 3 out of that group.
I'll go very differently. Moore had 4 kicked on him on the weekend, so I'm going to go Liam Jones, Dylan Grimes, who's not on the page.
You can't pick him they're not on the page.
No, but he can do whatever he wants. Dano said we haven't got Grimes, but Grimes is a tall, isn't he?
I've got Grimes in too.
Yeah, okay. And Tommy Stewart. Tommy Stewart could be the small back.
Yeah, I love that first name there, Alex Keefe, a 27-year-old who's played 18 games of footy. I don't think he's going to make it by the end of the year, but he's almost become, in the 6 games of this year, Adelaide's key defensive player.
Who's your number 1?
I would have put Pearce in.
Pearce,
and then until the weekend, I would have had more in as well. Giants responded well to a beating last week against Fremantle with a big win against crosstown rival Swans.
Yeah, normally what we've seen a lot in footy is being overcomplicated, ball use and patterns of play, but the way the Giants won, and this is a really tough, hard-fought game, it's just old school, hard in the contest, take the next contest on, get numbers around that, and that's how they played the game most of the night, Lloydie. The second quarter, they brought the Swans back into the game with skill errors and probably trying to over-possess it.
Yep.
But just that tough, hard football, which the Giants, I think, need to really double down and focus on, and then let the flair come off the back of that.
Their biggest challenge is themselves, in my opinion, the Giants. So last week, they good full credit to Fremantle, but I think they maybe got ahead of themselves, thought it would just happen, expected someone else to do it. But what I love about their response within 7 days to say, come on, we're better than that. We were off by 5%. And they got back on the horse and smashed the Sydney Swans at their own game. So that's their biggest challenge between the years.
OK, well, we're picking all Australian key defensive men. Let's now go for the top 4 selections after round 6. Is it obvious yet, in your eyes?
Well, my top 4 is Geelong, Collingwood, GWS. I think the Tigers make it into the top 4. I think they've done enough while all the big names have been out. They'll eventually get quite...
So you're leaving West Coast out of that at this stage?
Percentage.
Yeah.
I'm with Jim on that.
Yeah. So the Richmond are back in the mix, despite all these injuries, and Revol's now out for an extended patch as well.
Yeah, they'll get him back again at some stage.
Yep. Look, there's footballers and there's footballers with footy brains, and that Fife is in the latter, obviously. A free kick infringement in the centre of the ground in this game against the Bulldogs. He knows there's a free kick to be paid. He knows that you need 4 people inside the square. You can't see him on the matchday broadcast, but afl.com.au footage down the ground will show you that's how he found himself to that particular space on the ground. He was smart enough to know the play, smart enough to stay inside the square just, and then break free once the game was called play on.
This is just brilliant vision from our team here at Access All Areas, and his opponent is Jackson McRae. And McRae just stumbles, falls over. The panic that set in from what Fife just did, that's what separates the average to the greats, of which Fife is.
Port Adelaide, a good win against North Melbourne on Friday night. Have now got Collingwood at Marvel Stadium on Friday night.
Yeah,
Can they win?
Well, it's going to be tough for them. There's certainly a chance. Now, where they've been really good this year is clearances, and with the 2 ruckman, Ryder and Lysette, they're going to have to be absolutely on top of their game with Brodie Grundy, who's been dominant this year. But win the contest and get it forward. They'll have to play that style of footy and be on top, but Collingwood are starting to get their mojo back around the ball.
I love what Port have done this year.
Yeah.
The decisions they made in the off-season, they're bold, they're aggressive, they're in your face. They'll have some bad weeks, which they've already had this year, but I like what they're doing.
And Lottie, what it is, it's the kids who have now got 6 games of AFL football to their name who are in your face as much, aren't they? The spark and the excitement and the verb that they've all brought to the table. And Xavier Dersma has now done this in consecutive weeks of footy, the arrow.
He's adding a little bit more onto the arrow as well. This is his first arrow, Lottie, just more of a conservative arrow, little jump arrow. The air guitar arrow was absolutely fantastic, but the other night against the Kangaroos, it was Rosie who sparked him inside forward 50. So Kenny's not afraid.
And this is genuine too, isn't it? I mean, sometimes it's contrived and cultivated, but this is real passion.
Yeah, and Kenny Hinckley's not afraid to put them into the big spots on the ground as well. He gave Rosie the whole inside 50 and let Robbie Gray push out. So he trusts them in the big moments.
You're old school, Lord. Do you like that celebration?
No, why? Because that's what kids do for your team. They reinvigorate you, and they've got no fear, these kids. So if you want to take that away from them, well, they go into their shells a little bit. So just let them go.
Yep.
They'll scale that back in the next 12 months. But at the moment, it's like they're playing under 18 footy and just loving it.
I love it. Charlie Dixon spoke pre-match about the effect and impact that type of attitude is having on the entire playing group, and it's becoming powerful. Cam Rayner sometimes gets criticised for what he does, but he was crucial in what his team, Brisbane Lions, did against the Gold Coast Suns on the weekend, and he's an impact player, isn't he?
Yeah, I love how, as a young player, he puts himself into the big moments of the game. We talked about the Port Adelaide young kids and big moments, but last year he had a couple of opportunities to win the game off his own boot. He missed one of them, but he doesn't shy away from it, Lloydie. He feels like as the game gets bigger and tighter and tougher, he wants to be in it more.
I spoke about Gary Ablett being the best finisher that I've ever seen in my time in the game, and his spike may well be it when Gary Ablett retires. Just his finishing skills, I think, in time, just the poise and the class on the run. I know he's missed a few in time, but he's just silk. And don't expect him to be the 30 possession midfielder. He is going to ever.
Yeah, right.
He's your 5-goal, not every week, but he'll kick his 2s and 3s. He'll have some weeks he kicks 5s, that dynamic inside 50 player. And the Lions knew that when they drafted him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Time now for the big ask on the access. Lloyd, it starts with you. Is Dylan Shields' disposal a major concern?
It is a concern, but still he's having a huge effect on games.
Jimmy, should Essendon Footy Club have released a statement on their fans booing during the post-game Anzac Day ceremony?
No.
To both of you, are the D's done for 2019? Start with you, Lloydie.
Yes,
well and truly.
Just done.
They're done. They've got so many areas of concern. It's done.
Where do they finish? Bottom 4, or you think they'll be better than that?
No, bottom 4 for me.
Why can't they work their way through?
There's just too many things they've got to work through. They're getting beaten at the contest, on the spread. Their forward line structure is a mess, and back line is getting exposed anytime they're under pressure.
Lloydie, is Stephen Canelio among the top 10 players in the comp?
Easily.
Yeah,
Easily
even higher
maybe
than
top 5.
Yeah. Jimmy, could Sydney Stack snatch the rising star from the two guys everyone thinks will raffle it in Rosie and Walsh?
Just pump the brakes. I'm excited for Sydney Stack. I love seeing what he's doing, but the other two are clear first and second.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. And to both of you, Freo, are they finals bound?
I think they'll just miss out.
No, they're playing finals.
They're playing finals.
They're playing finals.
OK, you like bringing something supposedly funny, Jim, to the table right at the end of the access each week?
Funny is questionable, I think, with most of these, but a bit of party time down here at Geelong. They're absolutely smashing the Eagles. Tommy Atkins, how's this? Fully on the run, ball hits him in the back. Just easy as you like, just flick it over the shoulder.
He's doing everything.
Everything. Party time down there at Kardinia Park, or GMHBA Stadium, sorry, so catch just rolling along.
Jim, well done, Matty.
Thanks,
Matty. And thanks for joining us on Access All Areas. We'll be back next Monday.